The entire NFL spent the first day of June refreshing their phones in disbelief. Two of the biggest names in the sports switched teams in a single afternoon. Myles Garrett, the most feared defender alive, packed his bags for the Los Angeles Rams. A.J. Brown flew to New England to reunite with his old coach. The league shook. The contenders emptied their wallets. But while everybody watched the big names move, the Las Vegas Raiders sat quietly in the corner. And that quiet might be the loudest statement nobody heard. Here is what the headlines missed completely. Myles Garrett is now an NFC problem. Think about what that means for a moment. The scariest pass rusher on earth, the man who destroys game plans and ruins young quarterbacks, just left the American Football Conference entirely. For a team like the Raiders, a team that just spent this entire spring fixing a broken offensive line, that is not just good news. That is a gift wrapped in a trade agreement. One of the 2 or 3 most terrifying matchups on their schedule just packed up and moved across the league. The Raiders did not chase a headline on that crazy day. They did not panic trade a future for a name. They let the chaos happen around them, and the chaos worked in their favor. That discipline tells you something. A front office that watches the league blow up and stays focused on its own plan is a front office that finally knows what it is building. And what they are building starts not with a quarterback, not with a star receiver, but with something much less glamorous and much more important. That is where the real story of this offseason lives, and most fans have already scrolled right past it. Everybody wants to argue about who throws the ball in Las Vegas. Kirk Cousins versus Fernando Mendoza. Veteran experience against rookie potential. The debate fills every talk show and every comment section. But here is what the shouting misses completely. The question is not which quarterback plays. The question is whether any quarterback could have survived behind what this team rolled out last season. The Raiders watched a perfectly good Geno Smith get crushed into a 3-14 record. They watched the pocket collapse before routes could develop. They learned the hard way that you can put Patrick Mahomes back there, and it would not matter if the line folds like paper. So they flipped the whole approach. Instead of chasing a savior at quarterback, they went and got Tyler Linderbaum, a 3-time Pro Bowl center who walks up to the line and already knows what defense is coming. They brought in Spencer Burford, a guard who knows exactly how head coach Clint Kubiak wants things to move. They made sure Kolton Miller got healthy again on the left edge. The result is a front five that looks nothing like the group that got quarterbacks rattled every single Sunday. And now, for the first time in 2 years, the man dropping back has a chance to actually do his job. That changes everything for the two men fighting for the job. Kirk Cousins is a rhythm pacer who carves up defenses when he has a clean pocket and looks lost when he does not. A steady front extends his career. And when the rookie first overall pick, Fernando Mendoza, eventually takes over, he will inherit something no young Raiders quarterback has had in forever. A wall built specifically to protect him. The debate about who starts is fun. The truth underneath it is much more important. The Raiders finally fixed the real problem first. Watch the film from organized team activities, and one name keeps popping up in the notes of everyone watching. Spencer Burford moves different. A beat reporter down in Las Vegas watched him win rep after rep at left guard and admitted out loud that he did not even recognize the man doing it. That is what a scheme fit looks like. Burford arrived from San Francisco, a former 4th-round pick who already knows this wide zone system because he ran it for Kubiak before. His long arms and quick feet make him perfect for a scheme where linemen flow to the second level, instead of just standing still and blocking the man in front of them. But do not hand him the job just yet. The competition inside that offensive line room is as real as it gets. Jackson Powers-Johnson is locking down one guard spot and looking like a future star. Caleb Rogers, a 3rd-round pick from last season who started 6 games as a rookie, is pushing hard for playing time. And then there is the rookie Trey Zune, a 3rd-round pick out of Texas A&M, who started for 4 years in the SEC and can play tackle, guard, or center. That kind of versatility wins roster spots and saves seasons when somebody goes down. The whole design here is simple and smart. Surround Kolton Miller and Tyler Linderbaum with athletes who can move, then let the best 5 rise to the top. Nobody is getting handed a job because of their draft spot or their paycheck. Every rep is a tryout. That changes the culture of a room that looked lost last year. When a player knows somebody behind him is waiting to take his spot, the effort level changes. The Raiders are not hoping their line gets better. They are forcing it to happen by stacking talent and letting competition sort out the rest. The most important defender on a modern football field lines up in the slot. Not the edge rusher, not the outside corner, but the guy in the middle of all the traffic. And for weeks, the Raiders did not have theirs. Taron Johnson arrived from Buffalo in a trade meant to fix a secondary that leaked yards all last season. Then he stayed home. He skipped the voluntary work while his agent talked about guaranteed money. The building held its breath. A defense learning a new system under coordinator Rob Leonard needed its best slot defender on the field. Without him, the options were a rookie or a converted safety in the hardest coverage job on the roster. Then the team posted practice photos, and there he was. Number 3 on the field. Taron Johnson walked back into the building during a league-wide frenzy of trades and chaos, and that timing matters more than any stat line. A veteran who chooses to report in good faith when he could have kept holding out tells you everything about what is happening inside that locker room. Johnson built a second-team, all-pro reputation on a physical style of football. He covers the shiftiest receivers in the tightest spaces. He fits the run like a linebacker. He blitzes off the edge and tackles in traffic. With him back, the whole secondary looks different. Eric Stokes re-signed and steps in as the top outside corner. Jeremy Chin brings size and force as a hybrid safety who lives near the line of scrimmage. The rookie Trey Dan Stukes, a second-round pick who played outside corner, nickel, and safety in college, gives the staff options they did not have last year. A unit that got thrown on at will is starting to look like a unit with actual answers. And the simple fact that Johnson walked back in when he did, without a new deal, without a fuss, tells you this defense believes in where their things are headed. Go ahead and say it. DJ Glaze had a rough season. The numbers look bad. The pressures allowed climbed. The sacks given up jumped. Anybody who wants to bench him tomorrow has plenty of ammunition from the 2025 disaster. But here's the trap that catches lazy analysis every time. Judging a young offensive tackle by his worst season, played on a 3-14 team where the entire offense collapsed around him, is like judging a quarterback by his rookie year on a bad team. You have to look at what came before. Go back and watch the rookie tape of DJ Glaze. The story flips completely. As a rookie, he held up far better. He surrendered fewer pressures. He looked like the right tackle the Raiders drafted him to be. Now he returns to a system that looks a lot like the one he succeeded in. He has healthier teammates next to him. He has a coaching staff that speaks about him in glowing terms. Clint Kubiak has gone out of his way to praise his stability at both tackle spots. Coaches do not talk that way about a player they are planning to replace. But the Raiders are not just hoping he figures it out. They are pushing him. Charles Grant, a second-year tackle who played only 48 snaps last season, started taking right tackle reps during the second week of OTAs. In college, scouts viewed Grant as a left tackle. Kicking him to the right side tells you the staff wants to see everything he has. A real competition raises the floor for everybody. Glaze either has to challenge it or he gets pushed. Either way, the Raiders win because the depth behind him is better than has been in years. Everybody talks about the pass rush. Everybody watches Max Crosby chase quarterbacks. But the middle of this defense got a quiet makeover that might matter just as much. The Raiders went out and signed Nakobe Dean to a 3-year deal worth about $36 million. Then they went and got his old college teammate Quay Walker on a similar contract. 2 linebackers who already know how to play together, both in their prime, both physical and fast. That is not an accident. That is a front office identifying exactly what went wrong last season, spending real money to fix it. The only question mark is health. Nakobe Dean has missed significant time during his 4 seasons in the league. The talent is obvious when he is on the field, but the Raiders know they cannot just cross their fingers and hope. That is why the development of Cody Lindenberg matters so much. A 7th-round pick from last season who did not play a single snap on defense as a rookie, Lindenberg has been getting extra reps during OTAs while Dean has been absent from some of the voluntary work. He played on nearly 90% of special team snaps last year. Now he is getting a chance to grow into a role on defense. This is how smart teams build depth. You do not just sign stars and pray they stay healthy. You develop the guys behind them so that when somebody goes down, the drop-off is small. The Raiders have not had that luxury at linebacker in years. Last season, when injuries hit, the defense fell apart. Now they have Dean and Walker leading the way with Lindenberg waiting in the wings. That is not a finished product, but it is a real foundation, and that is more than this team has had at the position for a very long time. The AFC West does not forgive soft fronts. That is the cold truth the Raiders have learned the hard way for 2 straight seasons. Kansas City brings relentless pressure every single snap. Los Angeles Chargers hunt quarterbacks from every angle with their new defensive scheme. Denver has built its entire identity around getting after the passer. When the Raiders walked into those games with a line that folded, the results were predictable. Quarterbacks running for their lives, season slipping away by October. You do not win this division by out-scheming those fronts. You win by standing up to them. That is the entire point of this rebuild. A pocket that holds for 1 extra second against Kansas City is the difference between a sack and a completion to Brock Bowers. A run game that actually moves bodies against Denver, keeps the offense ahead of the chains, and keeps the defense fresh and rested. Protection is not a luxury in this division. It is the price of admission. And for the first time in years, the Raiders finally paid it. They spent real resources on the offensive line. They brought in a coach who knows how to use athletic linemen. They built a room full of competition instead of hope. Now here's the claim worth arguing about. This offensive line finishes in the top half of the league by the end of the season. The Raiders more than double their win total. And all those experts who buried Las Vegas at the bottom of the AFC West will spend December walking it back. Is that too bold? Maybe. The division is still loaded. The quarterback question is still unsettled. But a team that used to be a guaranteed 2 wins for everybody else now profiles as a real problem. And the schedule makers handed Las Vegas one more favor that nobody is talking about yet. The next piece of this puzzle is the one everybody is waiting on. Fernando Mendoza will take over this offense at some point. It might be week 1. It might be after the bye week. But when it happens, with a wall built specifically to protect him, the entire ceiling of this franchise changes. The Raiders did not just draft a quarterback first overall and throw him to the wolves like so many teams have done before. They built the infrastructure first. They paid the center. They fixed the tackles. They brought in a system that fits the players they have. That is how you develop a young quarterback without ruining him. And there is one more gift the league handed the Raiders that the headlines completely missed. Myles Garrett is gone from the AFC. The most terrifying defensive player on earth now lines up for the Los Angeles Rams, an NFC team that Las Vegas will barely have to think about. One of the 2 or 3 scariest matchups on their schedule just packed up and moved across the league. That is not the reason the Raiders will win games this season, but it is a quiet, enormous gift for a young offensive line and a developing quarterback trying to find their footing. So how far does this all go? Not to a parade. Not yet. A team coming off 3-14 does not flip to a contender in one offseason, but the floor moved. It moved because of the trenches. A protected quarterback, a real run game behind Ashton Genty, and a defense that finally has its slot corner back. That is the recipe for a team that stops beating itself. The standard is higher now, and for the first time in a long time, the roster is actually built to meet it. That is the breakdown. That is the verdict, and the season cannot get here fast enough.